Hello, I'm Mitch Hedlund. I am a co-chair of the 2015 American Packaging Summit here in Chicago. And I am meeting with Donald, also known as Robertson. And Donald is the Senior VP of Global Creativity for the Estee Lauder Company. And he recently shared with us his presentation, which was fabulous. And it was taking innovation to almost the most primary and basic level of individualism and being able to realize that we can do things with low to no budget, but just not work within the boundaries that we all think that we're constricted to. So, Donald, thank you so much for your time.
No problem.
And yeah, I think it's pretty remarkable. A couple of things. One, I think it should be celebrated that Estee Lauder, being such a huge, beautiful global brand, is giving you, or you are creating these situations where you are taking a very entrepreneurial spirit in a way with creativity for a global brand. And the mold doesn't exist when you're presenting. A couple of things that I just want to share with you, my reaction. And then a couple of questions. One, I love the fact that you're coming from a huge brand and you're encouraging other brands, packaging companies that are here today, to look at taking down the walls of the brand experience and how they produce their product and so forth, and making it personalized, taking photos, bringing Instagram and social media into the experience of building a brand or building packaging or a product, that people are ready for that. Do you think this is something that would have existed without social media?
No, absolutely not. There is this whole new phenomenon which is like involving your customers or your people or your partners in your process.
Right.
So if I have a huge project, part of my deal that I negotiate with the people I'm working with is that it's no fourth wall. So from the minute I get the assignment, I'm like, oh, I got the assignment, now what am I going to do? And they're like, the people who follow me and my friends online and social media are like, oh, you'll be great, it's going to be okay. And then literally through a 3-month sort of like journey of coming to the final product, by the time the thing finally does land, I can't even tell you how enthusiastic these people are for me. And then that turns into lines around the block from social media, and that turns into, you know, a solid day of interacting with these people in person. And some people even flying in to be involved because they have been involved from the very beginning.
Right. And that's what I think is so cool, because I think traditionally companies and brands have thought that just get it on the shelf and do traditional marketing. And you're talking about breaking that mold completely.
100%. I'm saying if you have a problem, like the blue comes off on your hands, for instance, say the blue comes off on our hands.
Right.
What should we do?
Right.
We're working on it.
Right.
Like, people will be more invested in that, more so than if you just put a perfect product on the shelf and then they don't really feel like there's human beings.
So you are taking social media and you are exploiting every part of the process.
Right. I work for a man, Leonard Lauder, who has told me from the day I started the company, be bad, do bad things, beg for forgiveness, beg for forgiveness, do not wait for permission.
I love
And there's
that.
only so many times that people will tell you that in a big corporation, but you really have to just do it.
Absolutely.
So I've just been messing with him and messing with the company and getting away with murder. And the thing is, people are responding, and I'm sort of changing the way things are set up.
Right. Well, I think it's remarkable because you've got freedom. I mean, to just make mistakes and to celebrate the mistakes.
And I have freedom to be wacky.
Yeah.
And it's very, very hard in these environments to be wacky. It's hard to suggest things in big meetings with a lot of people. It's hard to get your sort of wacky on. And I'm totally pulling it off. And now people are literally coming to me and saying, well, what are we going to do next?
Well, I think
now
that
I have wacky pressure.
Wacky pressure. Get your wacky on.
Exactly. I have to get my wacky on.
Is that like a hashtag? Because
totally,
it should be
100%. And it doesn't matter what you're selling.
Yeah.
It does not matter what you're selling.
Do you think that this is all part of the evolution of social media? I mean, I'm not sure where it's going to go, but I know when it first came out, there were probably a number of general counsels and legal departments of major corporations saying, okay, the CEO definitely should not hashtag anything.
Oh my God.
Or
This is the
communicate
thing.
on
This
social
is the
media.
thing.
And
I
now
remember
there's selfies.
the legal team came to me and said, I'm sorry, Donald, we've met and you're not allowed to go on Pinterest. It's just too high risk. And I'm like, I've been on Pinterest for 3 months.
Right.
And they're like, and you can't pull it back.
No,
So it's
you
there.
can't put it back in the box.
You can't put it back in the box, and we're already there.
Right.
And they were, you know what they said? Oh, all right.
All right.
All
it's
right.
all good.
God damn it.
It's probably reshaping their way of thinking more than any other,
Completely and totally.
risk management. But the world continued to spin on its axis.
No lawsuits.
Yeah.
There have not been any major
No.
sort of like copyright infringement lawsuits. It's just kind of like this giant block party that's happening on your
Right.
phone. Everybody's there.
Continuously.
And, you know, as long as you're not poisoning or killing anybody, it's like all in good fun.
Right. Well, I think it's remarkable because I think for this particular audience, they're always trying to figure out how to innovate themselves.
Totally.
And I think back in the day, which was yesterday, that meant go to the sketching board and look at a new color, a new texture, a new, diagram of building your widget in a new way.
Right.
And that was where innovation lived. And I
Right.
think when we hear stories about like what you're doing,
Uh-huh.
innovation isn't even in those 4 walls, as you've said. It's
Right.
in your Cadillac Eldorado.
Right.
Yeah,
totally.
Your story was great about taking a moment of a fabulous idea and having a cocktail moment and getting everybody to get hyped
Literally,
and buy in.
alcohol helps.
Yeah, it
Alcohol
always
definitely
probably
helps.
does. Always probably does. And it's also taking what otherwise could be seen as almost manic ideas and making them plausible, possible, and successful.
Totally. It's very, very easy to suggest things that have already happened.
Yeah. Right.
If somebody's uncomfortable suggesting an idea, or if it sounds really weird, lean in.
Right,
If
right.
somebody is telling you something that sounds like something you've heard, and the group is nodding,
Right.
just ignore them.
Walk away from that.
It's got to
It's not
sound a
worth
little bit weird.
Right. So what do you say your biggest, aha is such a cliche, but your biggest moment of taking this technology, because clearly Instagram is that's your thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're known as the Instagram
Uh-huh.
wizard.
Instagram is my beast.
Yeah. Where do you think it could go next, and what's your biggest moment in
The
Instagram?
thing you have to visualize is I want you to picture you and I as kids when we were just out of college or just finishing high school. We were in a room with a phone.
Right.
And somehow we had to get Graydon Carter on the phone from
Right.
Vanity Fair because we wanted to work in magazines in New York, just for example. And all you had was the phone. Now what I'm doing is I'm making fun of Graydon Carter on Instagram because that's how he started at Spy Magazine, making fun of people.
Yeah.
So he's got a good sense of humor.
Right.
And I did a drawing of him, I made a painting of him out of Ritz crackers. And I was like, what's ritzier than Graydon Carter? And I posted it as a little bogus sort of ad campaign.
Yeah.
And Vanity Fair regrammed it. Like, that's what I'm talking about. All of a sudden, I'm not this kid in a room with a phone.
Right.
Now I'm this kid in a glass penthouse with all these people in the room. And it's like, I don't even know who to talk to next.
Yeah. Fair
So
play.
if you're a kid coming out of college, the first thing you should do is just start complimenting all the people that you admire on Instagram. Everybody's a sucker for compliments and suck-uppery.
Right.
And they're all sitting there, and you can get to every single one of them.
How do you rise, and this is one of the things that we brought up today before we started the conference, how do you rise above all of everybody trying to do the same thing? How do you become the one that they look at and they
Right.
respond to?
I think the thing is, people smell a fake. So
Yeah.
I think if you're having somebody else do this for you, if it's not your thing, don't try to fake it because people can smell a fake in 4 seconds. You have to be working on the thing that's really authentic. You know
and
what
it
I
comes
mean?
out.
And it comes out.
across, yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of startups, a lot of like quick flipper startups, just sort of fizzle out because it's just, there's no passion in it.
Yeah.
And people can really detect that very, very quickly.
Right.
And also becomes hard to do if you don't want to do it.
True.
You
'Cause
know?
you have to have the passion.
You
for
really
the-
have to have the passion because you do have to really connect with people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
You know?
you've mastered that. So there are 4 things that we have brought up at the beginning of the conference. One is innovation, and there's 1 degree of innovation, which is Skylar from MIT. which is, outside of my mental universe, basically,
Right.
mind-bending.
Right.
And then there's other innovation that's right there at our fingertips, right there at our phone, right there at our camera.
Uh-huh.
And they're both powerful
Uh-huh.
and transforming.
Mm-hmm.
So that clearly is the obvious in your presentation on the innovation part. The other is, and this might seem like a stretch, maybe there's no application, but is there a sustainability element to what you're doing? I mean, I can kind of think of something, but what do you think?
So you constantly have to be evolving, and you can't be repeating. You have to constantly be sort of looking for what's new, because it's like an audience. People get bored.
Right.
So you have to treat them like it's an audience.
Right.
The other thing too that's super, super important is you can't have analysis paralysis. Analysis paralysis is the kiss of death. There are too many talented, smart people. You just need to be stupid and take risks and be dumb. And you know what I mean?
I
Really
love it. I love it.
just
Take
stick it out there.
risks.
Take risks, be dumb, and don't be so smart. Don't be so educated.
Absolutely.
Because there's all kinds of stuff that can happen.
Right.
And there's all sorts of things that have already been done that you're trying to do. But it doesn't even matter because it's your DNA on the project.
Right, I agree. And
You know what I mean?
with that level of creativity, you don't want to educate yourself into the box.
Oh my God, it's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, so
'Cause
get
then
off the
you'll just-
conveyor belt.
Oh my God, totally. And don't be rational and try to really think like a 6-year-old kid.
One of the other things that is on this list of 4 is cost reduction.
Yes.
And you touched on that clearly because
time.
you made, I don't know if you can put a economic impact to what you did with your lips
Uh-huh.
on wheels,
Uh-huh.
but you can say what the cost of that campaign was.
Right.
And compared to most, maybe you can just share on camera
So
what that
basically what I did was,
like.
I launched a lipstick with the people from Smashbox for technically 10 grand, which is what the car cost. And I got so much press and so much PR, right down to Miley Cyrus lying across the hood of the car in Miami and then Instagramming it. You couldn't pay for that in 1 million years.
Right.
And then on top of that, People Magazine picked it up. And because they're all involved in the world of social media, they knew who it was and they credited Smashbox.
Amazing.
And the thing was, Miley Cyrus likes a cool, wacky idea as much as a consumer. Like, we're all in it together. And it was just something that we all sort of like shared and pulled off.
Yeah. Well, you definitely were strategic in being in the right place at the right time
Yes.
with the right
Yeah,
sticky.
none of it happened by accident.
Yeah.
Like, it was very carefully sort of like set up, and we knew who was going to be at Art Basel and we knew what was going on. But it was just, I was so uncomfortable every time we talked about it because I thought this is so crazy that I knew it was good.
Yeah.
And they're like, what are you
Yeah,
doing?
that's a great
I'm
line.
painting lips on a car and I'm driving it around Art Basel and handing out lipsticks. And they're like, what kind of a car? I said I needed a car that looked like a folded piece of white paper, so as boxy as possible. So this guy got me a Eldorado.
Perfect.
And the whole thing, it couldn't have been better.
Perfect.
Cut to Fast Company saying that I'm like one of the smartest people in business in their last creative issue, which is great because being creative is one thing, being creative in business is times 10.
Right.
Because there's all sorts of very, very clever people that are happy to explain to you why your ideas are bad.
And dethrone you.
And dethrone you,
Right.
or sort of like wait for the whole thing
to collapse.
to collapse. So you really have to be in the game. you
Yeah.
know?
Be willing to take the risk and,
But you have to
Failure.
maintain it too. Like you
Yeah.
have to lift it up from you're a table egg in this
Right.
whole thing.
I like it. I like the feeling of uncomfortableness being a sign of
Totally.
potential success.
100%. If it feels super smooth and if nobody's rolling their eyes, then you're a failure.
Yeah.
Right out of the gun.
Well, I think that also, and we'll kind of wrap it up with one more question after this, but I think that's important because during the time of recession, I think a lot of major brands, a lot of major packaging companies, a lot of creative groups got terrified of butterflies in their stomach with a new idea.
Uh-huh.
They were terrified that they could lose their job anyway, so safety was the new comfort zone.
Yeah.
And maybe there was a stall in creativity.
Yeah.
But again, with social media, there's almost a no risk, maybe risk if it doesn't go anywhere, but if it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
But if it goes somewhere and it's successful, low cost,
Right. And you can also dual path. You don't have to be full gangster.
Yeah.
Like you can have a wife and kids and a mortgage and have like something very conservative running on the left side, but then always have something super wacky and risky running on the right side.
Your alter
Don't
ego.
be just full safe.
I love it.
Full safe is not fun.
No, I like that.
Be half safe for your wife or for your partner's sake,
Yeah.
but don't be like full safe. It's a drag.
Be the skydiving accountant.
Totally, totally,
So,
totally.
What would you say one of your best packaging-related creative innovations is?
Okay, this is the thing. There are a lot of people out there painting things by hand. So when Bergdorf's called me and said, we want you to create a line of merchandise to go into the store for your art bombing. I was like, fine, send it to me. Send me the stuff. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, send me 100 Kenzo t-shirts, send me 100 Claire Vivier bags. And I painted them. So I had zero overhead. They tripled the price because they were done by hand.
Wow.
They sold out instantaneously for more than if I had produced millions. And then Beyonce thought it was so couture and high-end that she bought it and posted it.
And poof.
And I did not have to explain to my wife for 1 second what this bill for $50,000 was for like leather goods or raw materials.
Right.
I just painted them by hand, old school, like a factory worker. That was the most genius thing I've ever done.
Isn't that great? And we all have access to this.
And all have access to
yeah.
it, but you don't because they sold out because I had been promoting them on my Instagram for so long that they went in a blink.
Limited edition.
Limited edition, hand-done sign.
Right.
Let that be a lesson to anybody who's in prestige anything.
Well, I think it's great. It's getting back to the basics sometimes and simplicity that we've all forgotten.
100% make stuff.
Right. Make stuff. Hashtag.
Totally.
Make stuff.
Hashtag make stuff.